Hello everybody, and in today's video I am driving something rather special indeed. One of the best parts of my job, other than being able to just talk nonsense about cars and get paid for it, is the fact I get to sample things that I would never ever ordinarily have even gone anywhere near because they just weren't really the sort of thing I was going to buy, but I find myself absolutely loving anyway. And such I think is going to be the case with today's car. This is a glorious 1964 Porsche 356C. It is the final vehicle brought to me in this trip up to Scotland, which has been arranged by the lovely people George and Caitlin, who run Region 2 of the Porsche Club of Great Britain. And I best do my duty by saying that if you do have a Porsche or an interest in the brand and you are in the north of Scotland, you should drop them a line and see what they're doing, because they put on a hell of a lot of events throughout the year and they're really nice people too, and of course very passionate about their Porsches. The 356 is always a car that I've known of but never really taken much more than a passing interest in. As far as I was aware, it's just a Beetle in a pretty dress. As it happens, I am apparently completely wrong, because this doesn't actually bear much resemblance to a Beetle at all beyond its layout, which is unsurprising given the fact that Mr. Porsche himself had a heavy hand in the Beetle's design and construction. The Beetle chassis is a fairly traditionally constructed item, whereas this car has a beautiful monocoque. At the back you will still find a flat 4 engine, but it's a 1600cc item made by Porsche for this car and puts out a fairly healthy 75 horsepower. That means, despite it having its origins in the 1940s, this is actually really quite a nice thing to drive. I generally say that anything from sort of earlier than about 1980 can be somewhat tricksy. The 356 came out at the tail end of the 1940s and went through several revisions. They have what they call the Pre-A, the B, and then finally this, the C. The major change for the C was the introduction of disc brakes all round, which do work, although you do need to plan your braking movements in advance. For an old car, it actually has a surprising amount of room in it too. Maybe it's because some of the other stuff in this era I've driven has been a Lotus. I've gotten used to these things being absolutely tiny. This actually is very pleasant. The only thing really in the way here is the absolutely gargantuan but extremely pretty steering wheel, which I really wouldn't change for anything else. This is absolutely beautiful. Now, this car was imported from South Africa, which is where it was supplied to, in about 1995. Its owner, Keith, always wanted one of these, but struggled to find a clean right-hand drive example. Even back then, most of them had simply rusted away or were not really fit for purpose. This car had already found its way to our shores as part of a collection. However, it was being sold by HM Customs because the owner had tried to convince them it was just an old Beetle and it wasn't worth anything, when in fact, it was. If values are the sort of thing that interest you, I'm not really sure I can help, because 356 pricing is all over the shop. If we just call it 100 grand, let's leave it at that, shall we? All I know is that my insurance policy is enough to cover it, and that's all I really want to know. This is not a pristine car. There are a few marks and things on the body, and it was actually stored for quite some time. Having failed an MOT in about 2003 for something very, very minor, it got taken off the road, and then work and life got in the way. But luckily the car had been properly stored. So when lockdown came around, its owner Keith decided to get it out and get it back on the road. And I'm so glad that he has, because it's absolutely joyous. There were just 3 options on this car. First being the tinted windscreen, which isn't something you'd probably really even consider an option. Second being this real imitation leather. And third being the right-hand drive, which was considered an option at the time. Now, one item that has been changed, but we could use the 356 Anorak's help with, is the speedo and tacho. This car was fitted from new, apparently, with an electronic tacho. And by the time Keith got it, it already had an electronic speedo as well, but apparently wasn't right for this car. But it did come from a 912, with which this shares its engine. Officially, it's the 912 which replaced this car, although in practice, the introduction of the much faster, much more upmarket, and then brand new 911 is what killed off interest in the then 15-year-old 356. it's not exactly something that I want to throw down the road. I've just come out of a 993 turbo, and you have to be careful because going from a car as fast as that to a car as old as this can lull you into making some slightly foolish mistakes. As it happens though, this really is an excellent car to drive. Absolutely love it. I'm really surprised because normally cars of this age are an utter and complete pig. They're not friendly at all. This is lovely. Really like it. Visibility is excellent. Apparently another one of the things that was improved as the model aged, all the glass got a little bit more expansive, so you can see out pretty much everywhere. The gear lever does feel like it's sort of broken off, but actually not that bad. That classic flat 4 thrum. This car even has its original 6-volt electronic system in it. And I've got to say, this is an absolutely gorgeous car. We even parked it this morning next to my friend George's Cayman, which is also in the same shade of red, more or less, and you can kind of see the linears. There's hints of Cayman, shades of E-Type Jag in this as well, although at the time, this was more expensive than an E-Type Jag, about twice as expensive. Can't really see why, but that probably helped keep these things rare. They sold about 14,000 a year, I think, at their peak. Which is not a lot by today's standards, but I suppose decent for a relatively new company. Steering is quite light, but there's actually some feel in it. A total lack of ABS, unsurprising. That does mean that you can lock all 4 wheels with relative ease. I'm actually just going to test the brakes now, see how good they are. Just scared the bejesus out of myself because as I braked, one of the seats in the back folded itself back down. Oh, that shaved 3 months off. I don't need these kind of surprises. Really, cars of this age are not always this nice. Considering this thing's only just come out of storage, really, I'm amazed it's this friendly. It's on carbs too, and they're clearly expertly set up because it's really tractable, even from low down, nice and smooth. A little 1.6 pulls really well. There was a 2-litre SC, which sat above this at about 90 horsepower. Red line is just over 5,000 RPM, it looks like. You can throw it around a bend a little bit, have a bit of fun. Mostly it's just about soaking it all up and enjoying the experience. And an experience this is. These seats are a laugh because they're very, very springy. I mean, literally you bounce around on them. They don't have an awful lot of adjustment in them, but as it happens, the position I found them in was absolutely perfect for me, so I actually had no worries there at all. Suspension, really quite nice. Actually, doesn't roll as much as you expect it might in the corner. It's overall quite a bit firmer than I expected it might be. I think it could be quite bouncy and all that, but it's not. Am I going to be able to overtake a lorry? It's going to be a big ask. Go for it. Come on, old girl! Don't get me held up by the Suzuki. Come on! Well done, old girl. This is quite fast, actually. Oh, what a treat. I'm sorry if this hasn't been much of a learning experience for you all, but really, I just wanted to bring you along and invite you to sort of enjoy the sounds and the sights of this delightful little machine. And that, I hope I've achieved today. Anyway, thanks all for watching. Please like, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all for the next one. Bye-bye.